Centennial.
Merry Christmas.
That's great, yeah. Nice full house again. Jessica Reagan, is Jessica here? I haven't seen her. No. I need someone to fill in for the inspiration. Mark, would you?
Diana's doing it.
Oh, okay. All right. Diana.
So, good morning. I wanted to share with everyone my meditation this morning about guarding your thoughts. And in light of all the negativity that we have going on in the world today, I thought this was very appropriate. So it started with this narrative. It says, here we find the law of cause and effect. In the long run, if we seek to harm another, we find that we are only harming ourselves. The spiritually wise have always taught that our thoughts ride on a return circuit and that they never fail to react upon us. Until we have transcended any negative causation we have set in motion, we will suffer. This is why we should do to others what we would like them to do to us. In this law alone can we find exact justice. The universal imposes neither evil nor limitation upon us. However, being free agents, we may and must experience, at least temporarily, the result of our own negative thoughts and acts. And then the brief meditation says, today I shall guard all of my thoughts, seeing to it that nothing emanates from my consciousness other than that which blesses, builds, and heals. I shall not worry about the consequences, for they already exist in the mathematical law of cause and effect. This law does not govern me. It is something which I govern. If nothing goes forth from me which can hurt, then nothing can return to me which can harm. The knowledge of this makes me wise. Faith in the justice of the universal is my altar. On it I lay my offering, thoughts of peace, of joy, and of prosperity. And so it is.
Thank you, Diana. Eric Hoff, would you lead us in the pledge, please? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now I'm confused this morning as far as who's going to do the Rotary Minute, because there was an awful lot of stuff going back and forth. Are you ready? All right. Please.
Always ready.
Full disclosure, I had to ask Tim what the Rotary Minute really meant. I was getting it confused with the inspiration. So he shared with me, so I spent a lot of time doing some research on different aspects of Rotary, like the history of the four-way test. How many of you know that? Probably most of you do. I didn't know that it had to do with a gentleman around the Great Depression who wanted to change the culture of his organization. Or what's behind all the flags and what's behind the actual Rotary emblem. Did you know that it started just as a wagon wheel?
Yes.
Yes, I didn't know that. Yes, and then it wasn't sound from an engineering perspective. So this has been a great lesson for me with regard to research for the Rotary Minute. But what I wanted to just spend a few seconds talking about is really the core of Rotary and why we are here. As we wrap up this year, it's all about giving back, serving others, tax write-offs, volunteering, doing all of these things during this time of year. And I think what makes this organization different and the people within this organization unique is that we do this all of the time. This is how we're wired. This is in the fabric of our existence. We do it in big ways. We do it locally. We do it nationally. We do it internationally. And we do it here, even how we serve each other. So, service has always been a big part of my heart. And we all have different backgrounds, different experiences, different ages, different challenges. But I just wanted to bring it back to the core of why we are here, which is service. And I'm proud to be part of this organization.
Thank you very much. You see, you did well. All right. Karen, do you have a business minute for us?
I do. So I don't own my own company, but I thought I would share with you the 2 jobs that I do. Huh? Well, I own part of a company, his, but... Okay. I stand corrected. Okay, but I have 2 jobs, one that I get paid for and one that I don't, so I thought I would just share with you a little bit about those. So the first job that I get paid for is with Cigna. Cigna is a global health service company with 95 million customers around the world, and they have over 40,000 employees worldwide. Cigna's mission is to improve the health, well-being, and sense of security of those they serve, and our motto is Together All the Way. You've probably seen the TV commercials with the TV Doctors of America who remind you to go, know, and take control of your health because they're urging you to go and do your annual exam with your physician, so I urge you to do that as well. I am a medical underwriter for employee benefit plans with employers with over 500 employees in the Northern California region. You've probably have heard of some of the companies that are my clients. One is Shutterfly, which you've probably heard of. Vision Service Plan, or VSP, a lot of people have their vision coverage through them. Roku is one of my customers. House, Dolby, Pixar, and my personal favorite as far as the products that they produce, See's Candies. One of the things that I like about working for Cigna is that they're focused on our communities. One of the things that they do is they will match all of the donations that I make towards a charitable organization up to $5,000 a year. And I don't have enough money to give $5,000 a year, but I get pretty close. So it's kind of nice that they match. Another thing that they do is they give every employee 8 hours of work time to go and do some community service. So I use my 8 hours to deliver Meals on Wheels once a quarter for our club. Another thing that they do is because of the volunteer hours that I put in with Advocates for Children outside of work, they give Advocates for Children $500 grant every year, which is kind of nice. And that kind of segues into the job that I don't get paid for. So I am a CASA for Advocates for Children. Advocates for Children serves the 18th Judicial District, which includes Arapahoe, Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties. CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. I advocate for kids who have been removed from their home because of abuse and/or neglect. The case that I'm currently on, I have 3 little kids, and while the goal is usually to reunite the kids with their parents, in this case, the parental rights have been terminated by the court, and the kids were recently moved to a new foster home. And it's kind of like the movie, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Instant Family that's out right now, but it's that situation. These foster parents went from having no kids to 3 kids overnight. But they're great. And one of the comments that one of the foster parents said to me was, "We love them so much. It's so crazy but clear that these are the kiddos we were meant to have all along." And it's just really great to see the kids thriving, and they are so happy. They're with parents who actually love them and are caring for them. They have an extended family that is so excited to have them as part of their family, and they really have a bright future. So that's my business minute.
Thank you, Karen. So thanks to John Peterson and Dr. Paul for coming in early and getting the setup started. Thanks, John Barry, for coming in and doing that.
For one.
Huh? Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Mark.
I want to thank Andres. I've never been greeted sitting down at the table. But he managed to get greets in to everybody, so he got it in just under the wire. And Diana, thanks for that great inspiration. And Eric, thanks for the pledge. And with that, I would like to introduce our visiting Rotarian, Eric Hoff. Where have you been, Eric, in the last 3-4 weeks?
Started off in Estonia, then Germany for a few days on business, and then Nigeria. Came back for a day, and then was in the Philippines all last week. So, yeah.
Getting caught up in your sleep?
I've been home 2 days this month.
Yeah. I think he uses those.
Sorry, Catherine gets those.
And I would like to introduce, we do have a guest. It's Greg Cottrell's better half, Pat. And she is here she's representing Greg, although Greg is on the slope skiing. We have no birthdays, nobody was born this month, and no one got married this month. So, John Bellum, did you have a mentor?
Don.
Who?
No, really.
No, really. I mean, I would like you guys to come up then, John. Don, I asked you, and you said you didn't know.
I want to be clear, I've had a lot of mentors.
All right.
Don is my third.
Well, John, you get to retire your red badge, and you have your blue badge now.
Excellent.
Don, thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. All right, hold on, let's get this set up. Well,
Yep. Boy,
sorry. Thanks, Don.
he dropped that like a...
It's heavy.
It's been a burden, I tell you.
Here.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Don. I think goes to Karen. All right. Now, I do have to make an announcement. We have grant training on the 12th of January. The club does need to have someone attend that. It's out at Red Rocks. And the club, I don't know if there's a fee for it or not. If there is a fee, the club will pay for it. So, all right, perfect, perfect. You need to go on to the district website and register. All right. Diana Y. would like a couple minutes to talk about the Christmas party.
So, good morning again. Your princess is back. I have a new princess title this morning. I started out as the Flower Power, AKA the Potted Plant Princess. Graduated to the Peach Princess. Then moved on to the Party Princess. And I am now proud to announce that I am the Postpartum Princess. Now, you may be asking, what does that mean? That means that our president has asked that we do a debrief on the holiday party and get feedback in terms of how it actually did. And part of that postpartum is going to happen at 9 a.m. this morning. You will be getting a Survey Monkey survey in your inbox. I need you to be careful to check both your inbox and your junk, because I've been having a problem with emails not getting through. It's a very, very short survey, 5 questions. Whether you attended or not, if you could please complete the survey, because there will be a question in there that you can answer in terms of your impressions of the overall event. This is something that I would like to see extend to all of the events and the fundraising activities that we do. We've had members ask, so why do we never find out about the results of these fundraising events? I want you to know that we did hear what you guys asked, and hopefully this will be the start of incorporating this into each of the events and fundraising activities that we do. It's not important, it is important that we feel good, but it's also important that we have accountability and that we show results for what it is that we do. So this is the start of trying to accomplish that. And then secondly, and just very briefly, where is she? Our friend who kept all the travel gifts, Ann West. We loaded up her basement every year with travel gifts. I am taking that assignment from her gratefully. Thank you, Anne, for everything that you've done in the past with that. I will be storing the travel gifts in an empty office that I have in my office, which is right up the street. And one of the other things that I would like to do is to implement a new process to catalog travel gifts so that at the last minute, we're not scrambling trying to figure out who gave what, when, how much it's worth. So as we receive the travel gifts, I will be cataloging them into some sort of a document based on who gives us the travel gift, and hopefully that will keep us just a little bit more organized as we move into this time frame next year. So that's all I've got. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana. And please do answer that survey. I think it can give us some valuable information. All right, Mr. Hope.
A couple things on. I don't think there's enough brochures to go around, but the 12th annual State of the City Luncheon, sponsored by the Denver Southeast Club, is on January 8th. It started out as a health-related event. It's turned into a mental health symposium. Unfortunately, the State of the State Luncheon coincides with the actual inauguration day of soon-to-be Governor Polis, so he will not be there. However, Molly Bloom will be there, and I don't know if you read that or seen that movie, but as a result of her foray into illegal gambling investigation and indicted by the FBI, she's had considerable mental health issues. So she'll be speaking, and Floyd Cirilli, the political consultant, I guess, is going to be speaking as well. So it's $65. We can get a table of 10 for $600. So I might either get in touch with me or Tim with respect to that. Again, that's on January 8th, 2019. You might want to pull up the district website for more information. A couple things. We have the few remaining Christmas ornaments up here, Rotary Christmas ornaments. So last call, get those today.
There's one in my spot right there. There's only one left, I think. Are there some in there?
What, ornaments?
Oh, okay.
I got a box full. Millennials are going to get theirs as well. And then we're going to have a quick Christmas tree committee meeting wrap up after our meeting today. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Ken. All right. Do we have any travel gifts? All right, we do. Hey, there's another visiting Rotarian. Patrick, stand up. Here, Patrick. There you go.
Here. Yeah, I've been doing a bit of traveling. That's what retired people are supposed to do. While I was in Ireland this fall, of course, I have a brother and sister there, and we have another brother that lives in Alaska. So we decided it was time that we all the four of us got together before another one kicked out. So my brother in Alaska has a place in Tucson, and that's where we went. We all met in Tucson. Took a trip down to Nogales. It was interesting to see the wall or the barrier that's down there. Interesting. And then we stopped in a little place called Tupac. I don't know if anybody's been there.
Yeah.
And there was a lady there on a guitar, and it was one of those evenings where it felt good to be alive. And anyway, I got back there after a week, and then spent a day here, and then headed changed the clothes in our case to accommodate the cold weather in Michigan. So we headed for Michigan, and we spent a week in Michigan. Went to a Hibernian party one weekend, stayed the week, and went to another Hibernian party the following week. That's Irish stuff, by the way. And after that, then we went to Philadelphia area, a little town called Yardley, Pennsylvania, where my wife's sister is unfortunately in a nursing home. So that was another week. So I did a bit of traveling, I could say. Let's see here what I got. I picked this up in, well, naturally, what would you pick up in Arizona or something? It's cactus candy. No idea what it's like, but hopefully it'll be okay. And then, believe it or not, Michigan does produce a lot of wine. There's a lot of wine country up north Michigan, even though besides cars, they do produce a lot of wine. So I brought back a bottle of wine from Lebanon Peninsula. So anyway, I didn't really get anything in Pennsylvania, but I was going to bring back an Eagles hat, but I figured I better not. Thank you.
Well, welcome back, Patrick.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Ann?
For the Meals on Wheels people, I'm going to be sending out the invitation to join us and to work in January. So keep an eye open for that. I've been having problems. Somebody keeps sending me emails and I don't get them, so I don't know what's going on. Somebody else said that, right? Anyway, I was blessed with Patrick. As you probably are aware, Jay had his knee done on Friday, and he said, oh yeah, they told me I can walk. Well, I don't see him. Yeah, that's right. Patrick is going to take over for him, and I'm so glad. So I wish all of you a Merry Christmas. We're going to Florida. So we'll see you when we get back.
Thank you, Ann. All right. No more travel gifts. We have Happy Bucks. And doing double duty today on the money.
Yes. So let me remind you, or state the obvious. This is your last opportunity to be happy until well into January. So while you're reaching into your wallets and your purses for gobs of happy bucks, let me remind you of the general categories that we have when people are happy. Often, people are happy for something that happens outside of Rotary. Granddaughter's dance recital, anniversary, birthday, those kinds of things. We also are sometimes happy for our guests here on Tuesday mornings or our presenters. Sometimes we're happy for Rotary things that don't happen on Tuesday mornings, like Christmas trees and Santa Claus and Water Rico and all those kinds of projects. Reasons for everybody to be happy. Come on, reach into your pockets. There's one other category that comes to mind, and that is often we're happy to have the opportunity to apologize for something we've said or done, or the fact that we haven't been here for a while. So with that brief introduction, it seems to me that everybody ought to be happy today, and we'll start right over here.
Excuse me, but I asked you all $5.
Well, yeah, I've got to find my wallet. Yes.
I don't have near enough money to apologize for all the bad things I've said, so I'll send a dollar for a weekend that we spent with my 2-year-old and 4-year-old grandchildren.
Well, we'll consider the debt for the rest of that. Okay.
Well, Merry Christmas to everyone, and mine is happy. I had a wonderful Sunday with my daughter and son-in-law, and we went to see A Christmas Carol. If you haven't gone downtown to see any of those, was great. So it was a great way to spend my birthday.
Terrific.
I have 3, and most of them are, I think, probably more for what's coming in January. My mom and my mother-in-law are visiting, so I'm happy to have them in the house. Fortunately, I'm at the office most of the day. So those are for Yvonne more than anything.
Okay, I need a lot of change. Yes, I do. Yes, you will, and I'll be watching you.
How much should I come back with?
At least 15. At least 15. Just for having it's Tuesday and I'm at Rotary, and happy to be here with you all, and Merry Christmas.
I'll be back with the money. Oh, Jessica.
Just happy to be here today. $1.
I'll take the dollar and the money. Thank you very much, Jessica. I'll come back to you. Okay. Yes. John will be happy.
I'm just happy that my mother-in-law is coming to visit this weekend, so we have a free babysitter. First time in a while.
That is a happy buck.
I have a happy buck. Just great to be here. Everybody have happy holidays over the next couple weeks, and we'll see you in January.
Thank you, Barbara.
I've got 5, and this doesn't nearly begin to cover it, but I'm happy for all of the blessings that I've received in 2000, and what year is this? 2018.
Thank you.
I'm just happy. Thank you.
That's a good model for all the rest of you who haven't gotten your money out yet.
Yeah.
This is my last chance to wish you all Merry Christmas.
No, it's not.
Thank you.
You can always
John-
come by and wish me Merry Christmas.
John Peterson.
You got back to me. Thank you. This is a happy dollar for a generous person, couple who has let us use their home in the mountains in the next week for a little get-together with some of our family. His name shall not be mentioned, but his initials are DL.
You're welcome.
Just Merry Christmas to everybody. Two of them. I got one to wish everybody healthy and happy holidays. And number two is in roughly 72 hours, we'll have longer days to have. So.
Merry Christmas to everyone, and a special thank you to our friend Paul, who is taking over for me to take down today. Thanks.
I just have one to wish everybody a Happy New Year, since I won't see you until the new year.
I'm thankful to Ann West, who referred me to Pat Cottrell, who enabled me to have some extra tour time in Lebanon. She set up some of my tours for me, and I really appreciate all you did. Thank you, Pat.
Well, I'm glad to be here today representing my husband, but I was going to come anyway because I can't wait to hear about Cheryl's experiences.
Cheryl, thanks in advance.
It's great seeing Pat today.
I'm super happy. It's far greater seeing Pat than Greg.
I have to stand up because I am so blessed to have a mother. We all are. Except my mother will be 104 years old on Friday. So I have 104 happy bucks.
Wow.
Is your money still in your pocket? Yeah, okay.
We have done very little in our house for about Christmas because we're leaving on the 25th. So I said to John, let's go downtown and see all the lights. So that's what we did on Sunday, and included going into the German market and have some sauerkraut. It was a great evening.
Very nice. Patrick.
Well, I'm just happy that after spending a week with my sister and my two brothers that were still in speaking terms at the end of the week. If you knew my sister, you'd understand what I'm talking about. I'm also happy that we survived all our flights, 6 flights, 3 car rentals, hotels and everything, and we are back in our own condo here, and we're happy to be back. And Merry Christmas.
So the next time you wish someone safe and happy travels, think Patrick. 6 flights, 3 car rentals, back to back to back.
Wow. Yeah, but 2 big Iberian parties.
I'm happy to have participated in Santa Claus for the first time and made a young 14-year-old boy happy, I think, although he was kind of shy. But it was really a very nice experience and very gratifying.
I have 5 happy bucks. One is my son is finally getting serious about getting his college apps in. That would be nice. Santa Claus, even though we had one glitch at one store, overall that was a very successful project. And I'm so grateful for everybody who stepped up and really gave these children an amazing experience. That was very, very good. And my last buck is praying that Shanahan comes back and coaches our team.
Good morning. I have 1 happy buck, and it's because at my new job, I was on a conference call. Someone I worked with 10 years ago at the U.S. Chamber has this organization called the Institute for Sustainable Development. And I was on the call for erosion control and all that, and we started talking about environmental justice, and that's where you are working on the long-term recovery for some of these areas. And they were talking about about how, initially people go in when there's a catastrophe and then it kind of weans off and people forget. And it gave me the opportunity to bring up Water Rico, and they were very impressed with it. So there could be, he works with a lot of public-private partnerships, and it's something that they may spotlight in the future. So I was very happy about that.
Very nice.
Okay, I got two happy bucks. One sort of a wish buck, but a happy buck that I have 3 beautiful, healthy grandchildren, one of which is 14 days old. And the wish buck is I wish my wife would stop shopping for them.
You know the odds of that, don't you?
I just got one. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, thank you.
I got 3, 1 for the blue badge. Thanks, Don. He was a stickler, but I tell you what, he kept me on the straight and narrow. 1 for Santa Claus. As I got there, it occurred to me I don't buy clothes for my own kids. And here I was with a teenager trying to figure out what to get, but he was a great kid. Some kids walked out of there with they used their whole thing on like a nice one thing, right? This guy, he got an entire week's worth of outfits, and he was just like, can I, if I get 2 of those on the 70% or 30% off, will I get that? And this kid walked out with an entire bag of clothes and like 4 outfits, all sweatpants, but that's what the kids wear. And the last one, happy buck, is just happy this time of year to be able to see friends and family.
Thank you, John. Oh, yep.
Hi, I'm just happy to be in this group.
Enough said.
Just Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
I have 3 happy bucks. The first one, the Supreme Court of Arizona has a program called Foster Care Review Boards. It does not exist here in Colorado, where these boards review the status of foster children. And Child Protective Services, CASA representatives, attorneys, foster parents come in and report twice a year to these boards. I got to appreciate CASA and what they do. And Karen, thank you. You do a good job. Second one is for my granddaughter. She just got notified that she is going to be playing up a year in the Premier Real Colorado League and will now be doing 11v11 soccer. And third, meeting some of David's criteria, I apologize for not getting the newsletter out this last week or this week on a timely fashion, trying to deal with my wife's recovery.
Tim.
I have 2. One is for Pat Cottrell being here. Thank you very much. And we didn't have to goad you to open your wallet either. That was kind of fun. Yeah. And the second one is just a thank you to all of you. It's just wonderful to have a club with people like this. It's not often that you see a group of people that are willing to give of their time and of their treasure to try and help other people. So thank you very much.
Tim, if I might, I want to say the same thing. Week after week, this club's generosity is on evidence. So thank you, and the best of the rest of 2018.
Can I use one more of my bucks?
Oh, you want all 15 back and still? Okay.
But I have one more thing to add.
My final buck is that to thank everyone and all the Rotarians and all the people we had. Cherry Creek School Board received 80 emails about the youth exchange issue, which, as you know, caused them to take it off the ballot and reconsider it. Thank you.
Dr. Paul, can you go and... While Paul is grabbing Randy and our server, we're going to give him a little Christmas gift. I do want to remind everybody we have a foundation board meeting tomorrow afternoon here at 5:30. If you ever wanted to see how the foundation board works, you're welcome to attend. We'll be covering 3 funding requests. Roxy?
2 as far as I know. Was there a third one?
I think the third one was one that we approved standing here last week.
I apologize, but all I have is the one for solar, choir, and the one for the youth exchange.
I'll check my records.
If you
Yeah.
would, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes.
So I do have 2, or one for sure that we're submitting.
Yeah, I know you went a little bit over, didn't you?
No, not for that.
Not for that?
We
Okay.
didn't actually go over to the club. That's,
Oh, we're okay then? All right.
we're fine.
All right.
We'll settle up. But the Integrated Family Community Services Nibbles the largest fundraising event. We always sponsor a table.
Well, try and get those to me before the next meeting, which is January 8th. So we will not be seeing each other for 3 weeks. So I do want to wish everybody a very happy holiday and a happy new year. And I'm just waiting. I'm stalling. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about while we're waiting? Oh, I do have this. We got a nice thank you note from Mr. and Mrs. Victor Moss. I believe Victor was a speaker. Says, Dear Tim, Victor and I wanted to thank you for the invite to the Christmas party. It was a very enjoyable evening with lots of friendly people. Please give our regards to you and your wife, Dee. So that was very nice. Okay, I can't do the soft shoe. So what else?
I just want to mention something really cool that I heard this morning, and obviously Dave is the one who should talk about this, but he mentioned it while we were greeting people outside that one of the paintings that Cheryl did is going to be hanging in the main entrance of the new fire department's offices.
Oh, nice.
So that's really
Very
cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and he said they want to unveil it at the grand opening or something like that. So camera crews are going to be there and all of that. So that's awesome.
Yes, Patrick.
Well, while we're trying to kill a little time, I have to tell you a little story about my brother. My brother back in Ireland is very kind of laid-back kind of guy. So he had his passport, and he has a daughter living in London. So a week before he came here, he used his passport to go to visit the daughter. So then, you know, when you go from Ireland to England, a lot of the time you don't even need a passport. But he showed his passport, and you know, they accepted the passport because the photograph was on it. However, when he come to the United States, he had to go through the customs in Dublin. And when he produced his passport, the little chip in there had to be read, and the custom man said, "What happened to your passport?" And he says, "I don't know." He says, "Something happened to chip." And my brother says, "Well, the dog did get a hold of my passport the week before that, but I used the passport to go to England." And the custom man said, "Well, they don't care about the chip, but we do. You cannot use this passport to go to." So he couldn't get on the flight. So he had to go get a new passport, and the airlines, he had to fly from Dublin to Heathrow, and then from Heathrow to Phoenix. So anyway, he finally got his passport on the Monday, and by that time his sister was already in Tucson. So when he gets to the Dublin to fly over to Heathrow, there's an announcement there's a delay in the flight. So the flight was delayed for 2 hours because of heavy fog at London. Mike, you know about that type of thing. And so the flight didn't take off for 2 hours, but they still felt they still had time to make the connection when they got to Heathrow. But so the plane took off after 2 hours, and when he got to Heathrow, guess what happened? The fog came back. So they couldn't land at Heathrow, so they flew around for another hour. And by the time he landed, they missed the flight to Phoenix. So after making all this arrangements that the four of us would spend some quality time together, I only saw he arrived on the Thursday night at 9 o'clock in Phoenix, and we left the next day at 3 o'clock. So that part wasn't very good. So anyway, thought I'd tell you that little story.
Appreciate it. Go ahead, Karen. Go ahead.
So just a reminder of those of you that wanted to go to White Fence Farm with Raphael, that's next week on the 27th at 6:30. I'm sure John will probably be sending out a reminder email about that. And just a plug to remember to take Raphael for some excursions. In January, I'm taking him to a Nuggets game, and then John and I are taking him to a DU hockey game. And we're going to take him to Hacienda of Colorado to get some good Mexican food. I don't know. We might do that at some point, but we want to take him to have some good Mexican food first, and then he can figure out. Yeah. Lucho loved Casa Bonita. He thought it was great.
Thank you, Karen. Come on down. Come on down. Come on down. Randy, as is our tradition, we wanted to give you a little Christmas present.
All right.
All right, for all the service that you do for us.
Well,
Pablo, you're new, but you still participate, okay? But we do appreciate everything you do for us, Randy, and you have not lost your elf status.
All right.
All right, thank you. And with that, I'd like to turn the program over to Cheryl Sartain. Is Cheryl Sartain ready?
Yeah.
I had to get myself turned on here. Had the
That's why okay, all right, I'm not touching that. That wasn't in the script.
This is on.
Make sure you stand by the podium. Yeah, it's on right now.
Have any of you ever felt like you've been called to do something? Well, that was my experience, and that I'm going to share with you. And some of you here in Rotary were called as well. Nancy Nystrom is the one who was called to begin an orphanage in Manzanillo, Mexico. And she was called because her son in 1994 died. And she had a vision several times come to her that she needed to feed the children in Manzanillo, Mexico. 2 years after she started that food bank or that food kitchen, she officially opened up Casa Hogar. That resulted, if I can get this to work, there we go, in her having then a vision for a playground at her orphanage where she has 70 children living. From that came the Westerville, Ohio Rotary Club, and they helped purchase and ship down the playground, and they invited us, 4 of us went this February to build the playground in Manzanillo, Mexico. To Nancy's right there is Karsten Leon, and Karsten was sent by kids around the world to be what they call a handler, and he was our supervisor, our construction supervisor in building that playground. And it was a lunch conversation I had with him on the second day. He was sitting off to the side, and I said, who in the world is Kids Around the World? He had a t-shirt on. I didn't have any idea who Kids Around the World was. And he said, well, they build playgrounds, and 60 to 70 playgrounds a year around the world in impoverished countries and war-torn countries. And I said, well, where have you built? He said, this is my 4th playground, and my next one is going to be, I'm sorry, I'm going to choke up because it's so personal to me, in Beirut, Lebanon. And I said, you got to be kidding me, I'm going. Right then I blurted out, I'm going. So, just to give you some history on Lebanon, 1975 to 1990 is when the country in Lebanon experienced a civil war for 15 years. And it ravished the country. 1 million people fled the country, and 120,000 casualties occurred
during the Civil War. From 2011, in the country next door in Syria, in April 2011, we had the Arab Spring occur. And that is when the rebels rose up against President Assad, ISIS came in, and the Syrian people were displaced. And I am not able to see my notes here, so let me change my notes to this one so I can give you some statistics. What happened in Syria was that they decided to run over the border, and the two primary Muslim factions fought each other on Lebanese soil. That was the Sunnis and the Shias. And 470,000 people have been killed in this conflict. And the Lebanese government was very unable to keep the Syrians out of their country from fighting, but at the same time, the Syrian refugees fled into the country. You can see up there the pockmarks from the shells on that building, and we built the playground right next to that building. Lebanon is a very small country the size of Rhode Island, and Beirut is its capital, and 19 miles to the east is Zahli. And that's where we built 2 playgrounds. It takes 2 hours to get to Zahli on the road to Damascus. It's, the country is just packed with people. There are 3.2 million Lebanese living in the country and 1.4 million Syrian refugees. And they have been ravished not only by war, but it has caused amazing stresses on their infrastructure, on their water management, waste management, and especially on their schools. That is Beirut. It has a population of 3.2 million, so 1/4 of the country, of the population lives in Beirut. It is the size of Centennial and Littleton, downtown Little combined, 34 square miles. And everywhere you look, there's a crane. They continue to build, build, build. I walked up and down all those, I'd say the majority of those blocks. I think I walked probably 10 miles in one day, just looking at the perspective of how the country has grown in terms of its concrete. Located, as I mentioned, to the east is the Bekaa Valley. The Bekaa Valley is 75 miles long and 10 miles wide. And you can see there the mountain range, that's the Anta-Lebanon mountain range. Right on the top of that ridge is Syria, the border of Syria. We were 1/2 mile from the Syrian border where we stayed. And Mount Lebanon is 10,000 feet tall. The valley is known for its vegetation. They have a tremendous amount of crop growth. Vegetables are prolific there, tomatoes, cucumbers, parsley. There's a lot of wheat and barley grown, and hashish is their biggest production. We stayed in Zahli, which is a predominantly Christian community. And when I say Christian, is anybody who is not a Muslim is considered a Christian. So there are 16 or 17 different kinds of Christians out there, from Roman Catholics, Greek Orthodox, Protestants, regular Catholics, and Druze. Anybody, like I said, who's not a Muslim is considered a Christian. And you can see the wheat fields there. And they do get snow. While we were there, we had snow and rain one entire day, and it gets very cold. And then in the summer, it's a balmy Mediterranean type climate. The Syrian refugees have entered into this area. In July of this year, the total number of registered Syrians living in the Bekaa Valley stood at 352,000 individuals, of which 76,000 of them are considered family units. The majority of the population is our children. 50% of them are children. And most of these children have only one parent or one relative living with them. There are many, many tents where they have 10 to 12 children living in a tent by themselves, and a sheikh of the community watches over these children as their quote-unquote parent. They're sexually trafficked, they're physically abused children, and so they're fleeing a country of war, and they fled from one danger to another danger. And we visited and fellowshiped with many of these people in their tents. You can see down the bottom right, when I took that photograph, it had rained and snowed the night before, and there was just mud everywhere. They build their tents with whatever they can find. They're given a concrete pad of approximately 15 feet by 20 feet, and then told to go out and find their own materials. And the night we were visiting one family, the rain and the snow literally was coming through the walls, and very frigid, very cold. The children who do not have an education are required at the age of 11, 12, 13 to go out into the fields and to work. Their tent may have been provided, as was this gal's tent, provided by the landowner. And she's 14 years of age. She works 6 days a week. And the day I spoke with her, she had been in the field for 12 hours in the rain, picking parsley and tomatoes. Parsley and cucumbers. She doesn't she doesn't read or write. And most of the women do not read or write. And because she has been without an education for 7 years, she's constricted to working in the fields. And many of the children, all they can think about is, how can I make enough money to have a meal for my family? Many of the children go without food, and it's very tragic. Education is seen as the future for these Syrian children, and the only people really who have come alongside the Syrians have been these churches. It's their members or church members that have reached out to the community, to the Syrian refugee population, and they have opened up their churches and converted their churches into schools. The Lebanese government will not allow a Syrian child to enter a school without documentation. And most of these children don't have any documents. Your documents expire within 2 years. And to go back to Syria to obtain those documents, you would be probably retained and asked to join one of the factions, either Assad's army, ISIS, or the rebel group. So that these children literally have no documentation, and those that are born there don't have anything either. So it's these churches that have reached out. They have provided food. They've provided some kerosene for heaters for these tents. Most of these tents don't have any heat. And they have provided clothing that many of our organizations here have sent to them through Goodwill and ARC and those types of organizations. True Vine Church is the church that invited kids around the world to come and build 2 playgrounds at their church. They have a school down in the basement, which is their former parking garage. And they have 350 children attending school. Kids go to school for 3 hours every day, and they have 2 sets of schools, 150 children in the morning, 150 children in the afternoon. They have a 4th grade teacher by the name of Miss Rebecca, And one of the things that these children are unable to do is literally to dream. They've just lost that capacity to do so. So she has been using vocabulary words to try to get these children to think beyond their everyday needs. And so the vocabulary word last year was the word garden. And she asked these children to consider, what does a garden mean? Not a vegetable garden, but a garden where you might have trees and grass. And Muhammad came up with the desire to have a playground. He had visited another school that we attended where he had seen a playground, and he said, you know, I would like a playground that is not inside a basement, which is just an asphalt area the size of a basketball court. And he just insisted with his teacher that he be given the opportunity to, or they be given the opportunity to have a playground. And she said, well, let's pray about it. And he wasn't, she introduced the concept of prayer, and he wasn't about to have any of that. He said, no, we have to do more than that. And he was so persistent. She said, okay, what would you come up with? And he came up with an idea of writing a book. And if all the kids in the classroom could write a book and send it to the United States and sell those books, maybe they could get a playground. And so this is his book. And I'd be happy to send it around. I have a copy of his book. And you can see the church building up there. And he said the kids who wanted to play outside. And he wrote a book about their desire to have a playground and published it in the United States. There were 48 books that were circulated. They raised $100 per book, and in 1 month they had $30,000 to build the playground, the 2 playgrounds. They acquired this lot here next to the church, and that is the lot as we saw it. We had to clear all that debris. There's a huge pile of sand there on the right, and that's exactly where we had to build the second playground. So we had to move all that dirt as well. When we arrived, this is what the playground pieces look like. We only had 2 photographs to work from to build the playground. Day 1, there's Karsten. Remember Karsten? My conversation, Manzanillo, Mexico? There's Karsten trying to lay out where in the world are we going to dig those holes. And the little girls, we had 4 little girls with us, 2 9-year-olds, a 10-year-old, and a 14-year-old, and they were unwrapping the poles there. And we set to work. And Karsten said to me, Cheryl, I want you to dig the first hole. Well, what happened, see that shovel behind me there? Only went in less than a 1/4 inch. See the pickaxe back of the corner? I tried that. Didn't work. And I thought, you know, I can dig a hole. Come on, I can dig a hole, but I couldn't. So I walked the entire playground, and would you know,
Polly, here's Cheryl over there from Colorado, and she's a run for your money.
I found a jackhammer. I couldn't believe I found a jackhammer lying right along the side of the church building. And this gentleman here, Johnny, had brought the jackhammer. He fled for his life. He had 10,000 hectares of land along the Iraqi border. And ISIS was coming, and his best friend, who is a Muslim, he is a Coptic Christian, saw that ISIS was coming after him, and to confiscate his land, said, here, dress as a Muslim, jump in my pickup, and they fled their lives while they were being shot at. He has started a construction company, and it was because of our inability to dig those holes fast enough that he brought on some additional help of Syrian refugees that were able to come and help us for $50 each a day, which was huge wages for them. And so here we are digging our holes, which were numerous. It took us a long time. And there's Karsten measuring out the holes for our 6 holes for our 6 poles that were to go in initially. There's Karsten, and our team leader is Chris Marshall, and Chris Marshall is the Vice President of Kids Around the World. What happened was we only got about 4 inches deep with the jackhammers to begin with, and then we hit, well, actually about 10 inches deep. We had to go 16 inches deep on each hole. Can see that area there underneath that red pole? We thought we were on an archaeological dig because we hit tile, terrazzo tile, looked like mosaics, and underneath that was 8 inches of concrete. This was a former apartment building. So it was pretty tough going there, and you did everything you could. We didn't have any straps or ability to push that slide out, so I got up there, and Britta's holding onto my leg as Chris is tightening the seam on that slide. The last day we built in the rain. I was the only one with rain gear and full body rain gear, and so I was underneath another slide on the dirt, tightening bolts, nuts, and bolts. Over there you can see me there with the Sawzall. We ran into much rebar and plumbing from that former apartment building. I asked Karsten when we got there, I said, what did you learn from our trip to Manzanillo that you would do differently? And he said, if any children come along to help, engage them. And so Allah, who was a 5th grade student in the school, the first day he was standing there watching us. And I went over and I said, Allah, would you come and join us and help us build this playground? And every single day after school, he would come and spend the rest of the afternoon building the playground with us. And his parents were so impressed that his parents asked us to come over to have tea with them in their little room of probably 10 foot by 15 feet that they live in. And so we went over and visited with his family. Here are 3 of the 4 little girls. They manned the stores with the store with all the nuts and the bolts, and then they taught Allah how to play Uno. End of day 1, that's what the playground looked like. That's how far we had gotten. There are the 3 men that came and helped us the next day for 3 days afterwards to dig holes, and they were all Syrian refugees. And Jihad in the bottom left-hand corner joined us. He was our interpreter. There are my teammates, 17 of us from all around the United States and from England. Most of us did not know each other when we arrived, and we had a great time working together. This was no golf game. 44 holes later just on this playground alone. And there's the second playground we built in the rain. I did mix concrete, guys. There is my shovel. So we did that in the rain as well, and wheelbarrowed it in, and there's all the debris that we pulled out. There are the 2 playgrounds. It's so exciting. This was our first child to go down the playground, this little girl, and you can tell she's having a grand time. This little boy, I just got these pictures on Friday. They have put down an AstroTurf, and this little boy has just come off the slide. He's very excited. Here's another video that we'll play. John, please. This was the video I just received on Friday. You can see the AstroTurf there. I don't know who shot the video. Oops. Go back one. Do you want me to move it back?
Hello.
Isn't that wonderful? So as I mentioned, education is seen as the future for these Syrian children. We went and visited another school, and here are 350 children lining up for school. This is the afternoon school. They had 350 that morning. This is the playground that they built last year. That's all the children have, is those 3 slides is one piece. And so 700 kids or more are on that playground every single day. We attended their classrooms. English is seen as the primary. gift that they can give to these children, because if they can teach them English literature, English reading and writing skills, they see that as a huge future. They're also taught how to write Arabic and mathematics. So those are their key curriculum subjects that they have. This 5th grade girl here, I couldn't believe her reading. It was amazing to hear her read that story to me. In order for them to matriculate into high school, they have to be able to pass a very rigorous exam. And if they're able to get into the school, then the Lebanese government will pay for them to be there. Right now, there are 100,000 students in the Lebanese schools that are Syrian. And almost all the churches, the kids graduating, are passing the exams and going into high school. Those who don't pass the exam are required to go back and work in the fields. The kids come from around the neighborhood or they're bused in. You can see that Syrian refugee camp there that's primarily Muslim. And we visited that camp on Saturday and did some playtime with the children. The children, as I mentioned, many of them live alone, 10 to 12 kids, sometimes 15 kids in a tent. 3 minutes? Oh, I better speed up. They provide washing machine services to them. We visited inside the tents, and then I had the opportunity to go back to an orphanage where my parents and I had lived on two different occasions, Dar el Awlad. And when I lived there were 38 boys living in this orphanage. They have now changed the orphanage into a school because they see that as a necessity. They teach all their children at this school in English. Here are the kids playing out in the playground. When I lived there, the whole place was surrounded with pinyon trees and olive trees, and now they're building. So you can see those 2 cranes. It's going to be a recreation center and a hotel. This is 6 miles east of Beirut. It took me an hour and 15 minutes to get there. This orphanage was started by Leonard and Lois Swenson, and they had 4 children. 2 of their children are there. And do you see me in the front? That's me, probably as a 4-year-old. When I went to Lebanon, I was 16 months old. We lived there for almost 12 years. And through the association with Leonard and Lois Swenson, my parents volunteered to work at the orphanage and live there while the Swensons came home to the United States for 2 different occasions. I had no idea that when I went and called the orphanage that Becky, who is the youngster to my right, who's 2 years older than me, was there visiting her son. She married one of the orphans. And he and his wife, Becky and Jed, grew up or raised their children in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and their son, Jed, wanted to return to Lebanon for 3 months to see what it was like where his parents had grown up. Well, he married a gal that was at the orphanage. Her parents were working there. He fell in love with her. And so Becky was there visiting her son and grandchildren. There's Jed. He's the activities director as well as works with the kids at night on their homework. Guess what happened? While I was having lunch, nobody knew this was coming. When I was having lunch with the staff and with Brent, guess what? A playground arrived. Nobody knew it was coming from kids around the world. They thought I was there to build that playground. I said I didn't even know it was coming. So guess what? They've asked me to come back and build that playground. That's where it's going to be built. And this little boy helped him with his homework for about 2 hours that evening. And he wants to be an engineer. He's a 6th grader. And he said, Cheryl, do you think you could ask the people back in the United States to come and build our playground? So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Cheryl, what happened to the boy who wrote the book?
He was there as a 5th grader this year.
And was able to use the playground.
He was able to use the playground. We were not allowed to take pictures of any of the children from that school. It's like me, a stranger, going to a playground here in the United States and taking pictures. I'd be arrested. And for the privacy of the children, we were not able to take pictures unless the child agreed to it or the parents agreed. And that's why I was able to get the picture of Allah, because his mom and dad said I could.
Was the UN involved in any of this?
No, not at all. This was all funded through the funds that we all raised individually. Diane?
Yes. I want to sit and have coffee with you one day because I have a very close friend whose family is in Lebanon in a pretty predominant situation. And he's always looking for things to do and back in his hometown. And the more you talked, I'm like, oh my gosh, I bet we could make something happen.
I'd love to.
So let's do that.
Tell us a little bit about your history growing up in Lebanon and how things have kind of changed, time frame in terms of when you were last there, a little history.
Okay, I grew up, I went as a 16-month-old. I lived there for almost 12 years. We were evacuated during the Second War. When I went there, we were embroiled in the Civil War in 1958, and the Marines came in and calmed that situation down so that we lived peacefully in a very wonderful environment. It was almost like the Las Vegas of the Middle East. My dad was a hospital administrator at the American University of Beirut, and then he taught public health in the school, taught hospital administration in the School of Public Health. And because he came off the farm, he was able to work on the weekends in the Bekaa Valley, teaching them agricultural skills. We left a year after the Six-Day War that occurred in 1967. We left in 68, and our apartment building was bombed out. We were the last plane. I was on the last plane to leave Lebanon for the United States. I have some very difficult memories or times, especially when I get around balloons. I'm definitely afraid of balloons because of the fear of the bomb popping sound that it makes. It scares me to death. I went back in 1981 for 2 weeks after my first was born, and we spent 2 weeks with that family up in Mansouriya, and this is my third time to return. It has changed. There was probably 600,000 people living in Beirut. And now when I saw that concrete, I couldn't believe it. I have one picture. As a 10-year-old, I climbed the lighthouse, a Manara, and I was bound and determined to find that lighthouse is totally surrounded by apartment buildings. I have pictures of that, and they've had to move a new lighthouse, which is red and white, out onto a little peninsula out in the Mediterranean Sea. Did I answer your question? My school is still there. American Community School is there. To had pictures of that as well.
Well,
Shway Shway.
Cheryl, thank you so much. That was just...
Thank you.
And as you know, we do donate books to a small elementary school, and there's a book plate just like that will go in a new one. But thanks for sharing that trip with us, and we look forward to the next one.
Well, I want to take some Rotarians with me.
Mm-hmm. All right, we have one more duty for you. Yes, I know. Just give me a minute.
It says Office Depot.
Other side.
Oh. 263.
263.
263.
Charlie.
Come on, Charlie, you got this.
First, thanks, Cheryl.
No rush. Let me just look. Oh yeah, we're good to go.
No.
Oh boy.
All right. Okay, I know it's late, but we do have a late arriving visiting Rotarian. And if you could, I didn't get your name.
Thank you very much.
But
My name is Michael Wakefield, fastest governor, 1213. Yeah, they'll let anybody in here. I first off owe you guys an apology. My work job got in the way of my Rotary job. I know that never happens to you guys, so I apologize about being late.
You need a microphone.
I do need a microphone.
No, he doesn't.
All right, is that better? Yes. All right. So I apologize to you all for being late because I am a social person and I wish I was here to meet you all here before the holidays. I'm here to invite you guys to the State of the State It's going to be January 8th down here in the Tech Center. I'm hoping you guys can attend. We've got a great speaker. Have you guys seen the movies Molly's Game? Molly Bloom is going to be one of the keynote speakers, and she's going to talk about mental health and about how it affected her and her journey through the Olympics, and Olympic trials, and then the gambling and all those things that happen, and so it'll be very good. And then we've also got Floyd Cirillo, who is the political analyst for KUSA, who's going to talk a little bit about the state of the state as it relates to the politics in the state of Colorado. So if you guys can attend, please sign up. We hope to see you there, and I do so apologize for being late. Like I said, I am social. So I'll hang around afterwards if you guys have any questions.
Okay, perfect.
President, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes.
You're very welcome. Okay, could I please have you all stand for the things we think, say, and do? Is the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? With that, have a great holiday. See you guys back here on the 8th of January.
Don't forget the ornaments.